if I might have the microphone, girls. Good morning. Viewpoint from a personality, politicians, and perspectives. I have some comments about politicians, but I think we'll just try to leave it that way because I might get overheated and maybe get put off the air. So we'll go right ahead with the personalities and perspectives this morning. But the first thing we did, Mr. Ash, we have something to decide here this morning. I received a communication from a very dear friend. Her father was in my high school class, and this young lady and her husband have moved back to town, and they're good listeners, and they listen and will critique us too once in a while. And the young lady sent me an email and said, last week's program at our interview with Scott Glenn Betzelberger, author from Golden County, and she thought that was one of the best programs that she'd heard. And I mentioned that to Judy, and Judy's response was, well, what am I, chopped liver? Because
she was glad I was gone, Jim.
Judy was not here last Wednesday.
I get a cut and pay now.
You may advance your plea over the air now, if you wish, and then we'll get along with some kudos.
Go for it.
I had a little fun about that. All communities, small towns and large cities, they have fraternal orders, the Elks, the Masons, the Odd Fellows, the Moose, and all that. And people may wonder what they do and so forth, except have secret meetings and flash signs and all that business. No, seriously. All of these organizations, in and of their own right, do a world of good in their respective communities. I think in terms of the Elks and how much money, there's thousands upon thousands of dollars on their crippled children's program right here in Lincoln, Golden County. I was privileged to serve as a chairman of that commission for a long time when I was active in the Elks, and my father before me. So that goes back a long ways. But the reason I bring all this up today, I noted in this morning's paper where the Oddfellows and Rebecca's Lodges have sponsored sending Brian, Elizabeth Lanning, and Alexander Hill on a pilgrimage to the United Nations of Youth. That's a big deal. That is a wonderful thing for these youngsters, and it makes me feel a lot older. Mr. Lanning's father worked for me years ago, or Miss Lanning. So I only mention it because here's an opportunity for two youngsters from Lincoln, Golden County to go to the United Nations and interact with youngsters from around the world. And in that gig that they'll have opportunity to give speeches. That's a wonderful thing for a young lady and a young man to have that opportunity. So kudos to the Rebecca's Lodge and the Oddfellows Lodge. I go way back to the days when the Oddfellows had this wonderful facility out there in Wyatt Avenue, and they were so self-contained. They had their own elementary school, and when those kids came from the 8th grade into the high school in Lincoln, they were probably better prepared than those of us who came from the city schools. Great organization. So that's my kudo.
Well, that's a very good one. It's too bad that program can't be more widespread, because the only thing I'm convinced that will ever bring about peace in the world is if we get to know one another. It's easy for us to say, I hate the Russians, but if you meet a regular Russian person, you'd probably be crazy about them. They'd probably be just as nice as they could be. And if we could have more interaction between us, I'm getting a nasty nod from a fellow Presbyterian, by the way.
Well, what do they know?
Well, you used to be one, bud.
Well, there's so much in a quiet way that these lodges do. In every community. Right here in Atlanta, they had their own Masonic order up there, and look at what we're doing now. We have a wonderful meeting room upstairs and above the palms, and by the way, that's quite a museum up there.
Yes,
so,
it is.
Let's get down to serious business here.
Well, we got two people here to be serious about the Atlanta and the Palms and the programs therein. And Jim's from Atlanta, so 3 of the people are from Atlanta. One of us is from Lincoln, and one of us is a foreigner. That'd be me. That'd be me.
You'll become a Lincoln. About another 15, 20 years, you'll become a native.
I've only been here 50, but I'm working toward it. Annie Hieronymus is with us, and Kathy Macchiarello. Did I do that right?
It's close enough.
Is it?
You can call me Hieronymus if it's easier,
Do
Judy.
you think?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, I don't know
thank you.
which I can't decide. Either one's not the easiest name.
Really? They're all about like Judith Nesseth. That was my maiden name. That was a dandy. Anyway, let's begin by talking about Bowling for Books. This is a really novel thing as far as I know. And what a good idea, talking about institutions that do good for the community. The Atlanta Library is certainly at the top of the list.
Well, Bowling for Books is, I think, now our third year. Our third year of doing it. And we started this project because when Annie used to own Fanny's in Atlanta, she sponsored every year a dodgeball tournament that was extremely successful to raise money for breast cancer research. So we thought, it's maybe time to give a rest to dodgeball, so what else can we do? And we've been partnering with Red Wing Bowl in Atlanta now for 3 years to do this bowling fundraiser for the library to support our programming. And it's grown into something really quite big. We have 3 shifts of bowling, and people can sign up and have teams, and we get a cut of that for the library. In fact, we get the majority of that money for our programming.
How nice of the bowling alley.
Very nice. We have a huge bake sale all day. It's coming up this Saturday, the 20th, and that runs from 9 to 3. And we also have a basket auction of, I think we have 18 baskets, and they're really glorious and abundantly filled baskets this year, ranging in value from about $50 to $200. And people can buy chances to win those baskets. And we have a huge raffle this year. For the first time, we've added that, and it has 3 terrific prizes. The first prize is $200 worth of fresh pork. I personally have no concept of how much pork that is, but I'm told it's quite a lot. And second prize is a Samsung Galaxy Nook tablet. And third prize is an overnight stay at the beautiful Kolaw Rooming House in Atlanta for up to 6 adults, including a gourmet multi-course dinner cooked by members of the staff and board of the library. So it's great prizes and many ways to participate. And Annie is the chair of that project. She heads our youth committee at the library, and so she can tell you all the details about how it works and how the auction works and what's in the baskets.
Just a side comment, if I may, please, about the Kolaw House. That is aesthetically a real success. From the outside, from the exterior, I have not been inside. I just hope it's an economic success for the folks, because that's a really nice thing to have in this great little community of Atlanta. So hats off to those folks who spearheaded that and got it done. There was some significant money invested there, and I hope it works out real well for you. It looks really nice. And I interrupted your whole train of thought. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. The auction is really a really fun thing that we do. What you do is, it's called a Chinese auction, and each basket has a little bag, and you buy tickets, and you sign up, and you can put your tickets in whatever bag of the basket that you want to win. And it's a lot of fun, and then it's just the luck of the draw, And the bake sale is usually really wonderful. A lot of homemade things, pies, cakes, cookies, brownies, and it's well worth the money spent. So those 2 things are really nice, which we used those for the dodgeball tournaments too, and we always made a lot of money on the auction. So
people have a great time
They
with
do,
the baskets,
yeah.
because sometimes people might buy $20 worth of tickets and put all the tickets in one bag for one prize, or they might spread them out and 20. And I said last year I was so excited because I won a car detailing, which I really wanted, but I put
Needed it.
$25 worth of tickets in that bag. But still, that's like a 75% discount of what it
Well,
would
yeah.
have
Well,
cost
hope
me to get
springs
the car
eternal, and so does joy.
Yeah.
And if you think that you got a free detailing, good for you. That's nice. I mean, forget the 25.
of a free detailing.
That was a nice gift you gave to the library. So that was good, right?
And I'd also like to add that the pork products are being donated by Garrett Apel this
And-
year.
Oh.
And so we are really thankful to him for doing that for
Oh,
us.
bless his heart.
Yes, very.
That's
Well, we
very
couldn't
nice.
do this without our sponsors. Mattingly Automotive is always our sponsor for the bowling tournament. Our board members have been really instrumental in putting baskets together and soliciting donations. So we have every basket is full of restaurant gift cards, store gift cards, and they're all donated by local businesses in Bloomington and Atlanta and Lincoln. And we couldn't be nearly so successful without the participation of all those folks. So
But
we're
the problem
really
is, you had to have somebody go see these folks
Right.
and seek that help.
Right.
So again, it's ground roots
Yes.
stuff, and without
yeah.
somebody going to engender their ideas, and halfway they all go along with you, which is a good thing to do, particularly in a small community like this, especially so.
Well,
But,
we have a lot of businesses from Lincoln that have donated things,
Good.
and we're very thankful to them. And actually, our programs, a lot of people from Lincoln come to those. So we're quite happy that we've expanded to the Lincoln area as well.
Well, we're from Lincoln, and we come, and we like it. Don't we like it?
I've never had a bad meal at the Palms, and they have some very interesting entertainment up there. They've got an ongoing series of programs, and it's like down there in Elkhart. They do essentially the same thing. They have people come in we've got all these folks come in here and enjoy the meal and support the program. And little things mean a lot in a small community.
You bet.
Well, you mentioned the Masonic Lodge, and the local lodge and the Illinois Lodge are huge supporters of our children's programs.
Wonderful,
And the
yeah.
upstairs room above the Palms used to be Masonic
Yeah,
Lodge, and
right.
we've now turned that into a club called the Palms Up,
Which I think is so
Palms up, which is
clever.
neat. Yeah.
and we have great music programs there, and it's turning into a real destination place.
Yeah, well, I recall having some of our Lincoln College musicians up there very recently, and they put a really nice program.
Now, you've
Let's call
tied
that.
in with them to have programs, and you can have dinner at the Palms at a program at
Yes.
the library, for instance,
Yes.
or at the Palms Up.
Right. If you come to dinner at the Palms, you get a free ticket to the concert, or you can come to the concert and pay $8 or $10 depending on the group. You don't have to have dinner, but most people come and have dinner because it's great fun, and then we adjourn upstairs to the club. And we just last Saturday had Dave Birchtold, who's a wonderful Piedmont blues guitarist and singer, unbelievable finger picker from Manier, who came and performed for an hour and a half, and
He had a lot of stories
he had many stories.
Was
about
that
people
fun?
that I knew nothing about. It was still,
Well, you do now.
In fact, yeah, you learn a lot.
Tell us a little bit about the children's program, since that's your area of expertise, Annie.
yeah, I'm on the library board, plus I'm youth committee leader, and we have a lot of fun things. Last Thursday, we made Valentine's Day boxes. Remember how we used to make those in school? And we had about 20 kids, and they just had a blast.
Oh,
They
how fun.
came and we had everything from dogs to monsters made out of those boxes, and it was just as cute as it could be. The time before that, we had a pajama party, which was all kinds of fun. The kids came in their pajamas. I think we had 34 kids.
About 35
Is
kids,
that
yeah.
right?
Way too many for that little basement. But they came in their pajamas, and we played games and read stories and had hot chocolate. And, you'd have thought you'd have given them the moon. They were so happy. To me, when you see a smile on a child's face, that just, if if that doesn't make your day, then nothing will.
Oh, really? Yeah. There have been pictures on the front of the Courier a couple times of the kids gathered on the lawn in the summer and doing their thing.
Those are our summer camps that we have, which is part of the reason we have this bowling tournament. Is unfortunately, when you have people come to teach these camps, you have to pay them. So nobody does anything for free
Fortunately for
anymore.
them.
Fortunately for them, but unfortunately for us. And I can't remember Andrew's last name.
Roystein.
We have had Andrew Roystein from New York has come and taught the kids music. He's a wonderful,
He's a
wonderful
curriculum
musician.
specialist at Juilliard.
This is people that you knew when you lived there. We're in central Illinois in the flatlands here. We're pretty lucky to have you girls.
And
You
we
know
have
a lot of people
yeah.
and a lot of things.
We have a wonderful relationship with Illinois Wesleyan. Gene Kerr comes in and teaches our theater camp, and it is fabulous.
Yeah.
They do everything from research to write their own lines to making their costumes. And then at the end of the week, they put on a play, and it is fabulous.
They put a
every
show
year.
together in 4 days.
Holy Friday.
And these are kids 1st to 5th grade.
And
Is that the-
last year was a musical. So
And I was thinking the other night, I was lying in bed and I can still sing the song from I can still sing the refrain. They did an adaptation of this fantastic book by Aaron Reynolds called Creepy Carrots.
Creepy carrots?
Creepy Carrots. And so we had bunnies and carrots in the play, and they each had a theme song that they sang. And I was
not so
lying in
odd.
bed the other night saying, I can't believe you can still sing that refrain.
Well,
I won't do it though now.
It'll
so.
get
Well,
a song. Well, you're in the choir. You probably know how to sing.
I could go give it back the memory. I want remember Jesus wants me for a sunbeam.
Oh,
Yes.
We could probably all sing that.
Yes, yes, yes.
That stopped you.
Yeah, well, it did. I was gonna go on, and I'll just do it. What the hey? You're only young ones. When Cince was 3, my brother got married, and the only song she knew was "Jesus Loves Me." So every time the soloist would start to sing, Cince would hit up with another chorus of "Jesus Loves Me."
I didn't know I was going to bring that up, Jim.
Yeah, well, I've always got something in the back of my head. So anyway, what are your major projects for summer, which is going to come, I promise you?
mainly the camps. We have a week of art camp, which a local lady teaches. She was a teacher for many years.
Mary Sunday.
Mary Sunday. And she does a wonderful job. I mean, the kids learn about painters and their techniques and their styles, and then they actually usually do a piece that mimics the painter. So it's really fun.
Yeah,
What's
last year
your
I think
average
they did 10
attendance at these?
Oh, we
summer-
have 80 kids in the summer.
Isn't that the berries?
It's full. It's
Do you have an
full.
opportunity to interact with the Funks Grove Nature Center? That's a great spot for the youngsters.
We've invited people to come and speak. We don't at the moment do field trips, so we don't have actual.
Well, there's a
ability.
danger factor there.
Yeah.
Let's get the kids on the road, and first thing,
Yeah.
everybody got insurance and the whole thing.
Because we'd really like to take the theater kids to Chicago at some point to see a show, if we can arrange a train trip, but we just haven't gotten that far
Well,
yet.
that's bigger money, kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Well, we try to keep it inexpensive, the camp. It's heavily subsidized, as Annie said, by grant money, and kids pay just $25 a week to come, and the equivalent camp in Springfield is $100 a week. So, we're really happy to be able to do that, and our board also provides some scholarships.
Oh, but that's only $5 a day.
Right.
For a lot of learning and a lot of fun.
Now,
They
we're
do
speaking
learn
of
a lot.
mundane matters. We're speaking of money. It's a mundane matter. But we have a mundane matters here at the studio. We have sponsors. You talking about your sponsors for your programs? So at this time, we're going to honor our sponsors. Go right ahead, Jim. And we're back live in the studios here. The program is Viewpoint. 96.3. Our guest this morning, Ann Hieronymus and Kathy Marciano. Oh, I always call her Kathy Marshmallow, and that's not even close. 648-5510. Some of the local folks might have a comment or a guest here that can give you some information. Go ahead, Judith K. You were all primed up to. I'm not sure what you were primed up for.
I never know. Let's talk about some of the upcoming programs that you'll be having. There was one that I thought looked absolutely fantastic, Black History Month. And you were talking about quilts. Now I can't lay my hands on...
It was yesterday morning.
And I was painting my kitchen. Boy,
You were quilting in another sort of way.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. I went to that, and she talked about how the quilt code during the Underground Railroad days.
Yes.
And at the end of the program, I still didn't know if it was fact or fiction, but I don't think that anybody knows.
The theory, of course, was that they made quilts and they hung the quilts, and
Yeah.
that was a signal
That was
that
a
that
signal.
was a safe
Yes,
place.
that this
And there
was
was
a
a
safe
famous
place.
book written called Hidden in Plain View about that, and she talked about that
Yeah.
book.
And supposedly there was an Underground Railroad in Logan County.
There was quite an active Underground Railroad up through here. My friend's husband's grandparents were very involved in that, and the Genealogical Society had a program at one time about their doings with the Underground Railroad. A fascinating time in our history, and the good people that were involved in that and the danger that they faced. God love them, huh?
Yes, she mentioned, that anything from being whipped to being killed, you could get in all kinds of trouble if you got caught. So
Yeah.
Even up here, even in a non-slave state, even in an abolitionist state, you would be in trouble.
Well, we really aren't that far from the Mason-Dixon line.
That's true.
So the feelings ran hot here too. Yeah.
and she
they
had
did.
samples of all the different codes on little boards, the quilting codes, which was really interesting.
What can you remember some of the messages that the various?
Well, you would ask me that.
Yeah, that the various patterns would relay.
There was, you see, the actual lines that they used were like far beyond my comprehension, but some of the codes they called like the flying geese, which would mean that you would go in the direction that the geese fly, which would be north. Another one was it had like little blue jeans and it would mean you could get clothes.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Interesting. It kind of diverts the conversation to another area. But during the Depression, when we used to have what's called bums or hobos wandering the country, jumping on freight trains, and I remember vividly seeing them sitting in, I always wondered how they hung on, open freight cars as the freight trains would go through Lincoln. And of course we had a lot of them stop through. And the legend was that they would leave a mark so their fellow travelers would know where they could get a meal. My mother fed lots of them at the back door.
My grandma did too, and she said that they somehow knew.
There was an indication
Right up here, they stop right up here.
well, we used to have that hobo camp right out there.
Oh, really?
But I'm sorry to digress from the subject matter, but I was thinking leaving signs and so forth, and that was very common back in the 30s during the Depression years. And of course,
But there was a lot of contradiction in the quilting code per se. A lot of people, said that the quilt patterns weren't actually patterns until long after the Civil War. There's just a lot of argument about the whole thing, and
About whether it was or
whether
wasn't
it was or
actually used
wasn't.
that way.
And It was interesting. I found it very interesting.
Well,
Well,
we
they-
have, oh, go ahead, Judy, sorry.
I was just going to say they had to have some way of letting these fugitives know where to go, and that's as good a theory as any, far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's supposedly, too, they said that the slaves learned the quilt codes while they were still on the plantation or wherever it
Really?
was they were. And they had to memorize these codes. But whether that was true or not, that was another thing that they
That's
didn't.
kind of spacey.
Maybe
Yeah.
legend.
Yeah.
Who knows?
The fact that girls are already, here it is, mid-February, and you have plans already set in spades for what you want to do with your youngsters this in your summer programs. A lot of planning goes on there. That just doesn't happen at your kitchen table. How does all this evolve when you sit down and plan ahead?
I don't sleep at night.
Call me some morning about 3 and we'll talk.
Well,
I'm
you know,
not asleep either.
it's interesting. I mean, it has been a process that has kind of evolved over time. The first year or so, it was a little bit like throwing spaghetti against the wall. We just tried a lot of things. We didn't know what would stick, what people would like, and now I'm a little bit more strategic about it. I'm starting to think now about next year, but I usually do most of the work in the summer, and it's been really helpful to come up with a monthly theme, and we've done that now the past 2 years. And so each month we have a theme, and I try to look across all the programs we do. We have our Golden Age program for seniors, the Night at the Museum programs, the Palms dinners, the children's programs, everything that we do, we try to kind of fit loosely under this umbrella. For example, January was coffee, tea, and chocolate. Last year we
Yes.
did National Tea Month, and it was really popular, so we kind of did that again. And this year for every Wednesday we had afternoon tea from 3 to 4:30, and people came in and they sat by the fire and talked, or we had a huge jigsaw puzzle that was teacups, and people who like to do jigsaw puzzles worked all month on that puzzle. They finished it the last Wednesday. We had coloring books, and some people sat and made art. When we had Brian Davis come and perform at the museum, we had chocolates from RGW Candies on the table. So we try to do things that are, and we had a program from somebody from Wesleyan, a gentleman from Wesleyan who came and talked about the history of chocolate and the chocolate trade and how that evolved. So we try to do themes. And this month, Bill, you mentioned that it was Black History Month, and it's also sort of our Lincoln heritage. We have a wonderful exhibit of Lincoln memorabilia from Keith Leisman,
Yes.
which is in our case at the library.
It's beautiful.
We have, we had the Piedmont Blues music program, which much comes out of the African American community in New Orleans and Chicago. Chicago is sort of a takeoff of, the Piedmont Blues. And we have a wonderful music event coming up at the end of the month, the last Saturday of the month. Lucy Smith, who's a fantastic musician from south side of Chicago, she and her quartet are coming, and she'll be doing everything from gospel and soul and folk. And she comes out of sort of the Miriam Makeba tradition. She's an amazing singer. Her ensemble does all the jazz services at Fourth Presbyterian Church in Chicago. And she's recorded and traveled, and she's
That's the biggie
performed
up
and
there
written
on
theater
Michigan
music.
Avenue.
And
That's
We
the
should
biggie
probably
church.
put a plug in for the Atlanta National Bank.
well, we
also.
absolutely should, because the bank is our sponsor for those music programs.
Mr. Ash appreciates that.
In fact.
He has a long history in it.
We have a great relationship with them, and they are very good to us.
Well, and others, and
Yes.
that's imperative for you, isn't
Right.
it?
It's really helpful. And I'm going to put a plug in for like one of my favorite things that we do, which when I did this for the first time this year, I thought nobody would come, and people did, and I was so excited because I love poetry. So I started this thing called Coffee and Rhyme at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the first one we did was about Shakespeare because it was during the month of January when we were kind of doing British and tea and all of that. Well, we have one coming up called Presidential Rhyme,
Yes.
which is next week, and we'll be talking about the poetry of presidents. And Lincoln wrote poetry, not very good poetry, but he wrote poetry. President Obama writes poetry. Jimmy Carter wrote poetry. So we'll be reading poetry written by presidents, poetry read at the inaugurations of presidents, and poetry written upon the assassination of presidents.
I've got a category for us, Judith Kay.
What?
Candidates poetry.
Oh, really? Let's not go, let's
I'm
not go
afraid
there,
not
Bill.
one of them can get on the air, though.
Let's not get too political on the air. We might end up in a big old skirmish.
The 7-second button would be constantly in use.
Well, you know,
Or
all
5
three of the
second.
people that you listed on your information sheet, I had no idea they'd ever. I mean, I can't imagine Jimmy Carter or Barack Obama writing poetry, or Abraham Lincoln for that matter.
Well, I think, you know, I mean, and it doesn't surprise me, actually, because they were all really good speech writers, really good writers, and really thoughtful people, I think, who, you know, if you are writing poetry, you're drawing on something sort of deeply personal and deeply spiritual, and I think all of those people fall into that category, so it doesn't really surprise me so
Maya
much.
Angelou was at somebody's inauguration. Which president was it that had her there?
She was at Clinton's inauguration, I believe.
That's right.
Was that right? Yeah.
They talk about writing. I'm just thinking
Yeah.
in the educational, in the curricula today. I think that's something that's lost in today's education.
They don't even teach them to write in cursive
No,
anymore.
and that's a sad thing. And seriously, it really is. But we used to have one of the courses in writing, which was very popular in high school when I was there, advanced composition. And we had a teacher who was a crackerjack on that. And you sure learned a lot about writing and punctuation and so forth, and composition of sentences. And those things are lost, and that's too bad. Everybody's too busy playing with some electronic gadget today, and they're all going to have advanced arthritis by the time they're 8.
Carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Many of our listeners will know the name Terry Ryburn because she's done a number of programs at the Palms Grill. She did the Bucket of Blood program that I think you might have come to, Bill. But Terry does a writing workshop for us periodically, and she'll be coming in March to do a workshop. She's done memoir writing, and she'll be doing a workshop again with us in March, and that's been really popular too. More people than you think write, but they're older. They're our generation.
Right. Now
Well,
they-
most of us, in all honesty, most of us should sit down for the benefit of our heirs and our families and just write our own personal memoirs. Just not for publication, just as I said, for the benefit of those who have come behind us, who are in our families, so they'd know more about us and what we experienced. And that's something, frankly, I ought to sit down and do.
It's a
I'm not-
beautiful gift.
Frankly, I'm not sure I want my daughter to know some of the things I did.
I can understand that. I heard about some of those things.
I don't think my people are particularly interested in what I did. They just kind of pat me on the head and send me on the way.
You might be surprised when you're gone what they're interested in, Judy.
We do have an art.
My
we have
car.
Have an art day coming up. soon,
Yes.
don't
Oh, we do.
too? Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell
Tell
us
a little
about
bit
that.
that.
Well, great minds were on the same track.
You want to tell about art play? You've done some of those.
Art play is art play. It's fun. Mary Sunday, who does our kids' art camp in the summer, teaches. And let's see.
This is for adults.
It's for adults. And so it's a really fun time because most everybody that comes says, well, I can't do art. I can't do this. Well, in fact, you can, because I'm one of those people. The first time we did watercoloring, we made some pictures and all that and bookmarks, and I can't say that mine was fabulous, but I did it.
And it was fun.
It was fun, and we had lunch and some nice conversation. We did ceramics last time, which I had never done ceramics in my life. and it didn't turn out very well, but I still did it.
You had fun doing it.
Now,
I
mine,
did.
on the other hand,
Hers was good.
well, no, I'm joking. It was good enough that it is in one of our baskets for the bowling
Oh.
for anyone who's interested in the
I asked her if she-
handmade in Atlanta basket.
I asked her if she wanted mine, and she kind of politely said no.
Well, when you're a sister, you can just let politeness suffice, you know.
And the next one coming up is art media, right?
And mixed media, which is where we use lots of different kinds of paint. It could be watercolor, acrylic, oil, pastels.
Now, each person gets to choose what they want, or each person gets to use a little
Well-
bit of all of them on one project.
Mary will design a project or several projects, and you imagine it yourself, and you can use whatever media appeals to you and make your project. And sometimes you'll do watercolor and chalk pastels, and then you may apply some kind of three-dimensional object to the piece.
This is my favorite. the
It's
mixed
really fun.
media.
It's really fun. Next month they're going to be painting on canvas, which But every time somebody gets a piece to take home, and Annie always threatens she's giving hers to her daughter for Christmas.
Oh, she'll be
I actually made a vase for you, didn't I? Once,
Yeah,
didn't I?
it's
Made
on
a
my
vase
shelf.
for her. Yeah.
You know,
She has no choice because we live together, so
So
she has to put it out.
She has to make nice.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
And I
good.
do.
go ahead, Judy. I started to comment about something. You go right ahead, please.
Oh, please, would
Because
you?
I want to give you as much billing
I know,
as we
but they
can.
like to hear you because I'm not working out, okay? Hit it.
Well, we talk about people's ability to blatant or untouched ability in art and so forth. Eons ago, after my father passed away, my mother moved into the Kirpin building, which was what was then known right there by Latham Park. Clyde Reynolds owned it. And she lived on the third floor, and she fell and broke something, I don't remember. So she couldn't negotiate the stairs. And so bottom line, real quickly, she said, go down and get me some of those numbers paintings. I'm bored. So I got her some numbers paintings, and she wasn't very long in that. She said, oh, this is boring. She went to Lincoln College and took art classes from our fine arts department out there. She moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and took arts for some advanced work from some guy down there for a week or somewhere, I don't remember. But she became a very good artist in her own right, and she didn't think she had any kind of talent at all. But it just started out with numbers paintings. So we all have some ability hiding in there somewhere.
But she was willing to go after it. You know,
Well, she had
it's
the right
so
attitude.
easy to say, oh, I can't do that.
I don't know what it is in our culture that teaches us as adults that attitude. Because if you watch the children in our camp, there's not a child who can't express himself or herself artistically. And they have no inhibitions about doing that. But there's something that gets lost, between those years and when we become adults, where we lose our confidence, we lose, we're afraid to be vulnerable. There's something about growing up that takes away that sort of youthful imagination and vigor
Or maybe
around
we're
making
burned out.
art.
And
it's
bravery.
incredibly therapeutic. It also trains you to have different perspective on the world. You see things in a different way when you can see with the eye of an artist. And, who's to say that you don't have to be Picasso? You don't have to win a Grammy. But everybody has inside them this impetus to create. And sometime, somewhere in our culture, we quash that. And I just think it's really sad.
My friends and I used to get together on Tuesdays. We took art lessons, folk art lessons from a lady in Atlanta, Jean Gale.
Oh, I know.
And
She was in my mom's bridge club.
then she quit teaching, and we continued to meet and paint together. And I'm not saying any of us were going to be rich and famous.
I'd say that.
But one of them said it's cheaper than a psychiatrist because we'd get together and paint and talk, and by the time you'd leave, you'd feel like, yes, I've got it under control. It is good for you to just leap out of the box once in a while.
Right.
Well, and last year after our kids' art camp in the summer, we had a regular gallery show. We showed the kids pictures of what a real art gallery looks like, and then we hung all their art in the library.
There was an exhibit in each room.
They dressed up to the nines and brought their parents and grandparents and whoever wanted to come. We probably had 75 people in the
And we
library.
had teenagers came and did past hors d'oeuvres, like they do at museum openings.
yes.
And this year I'm looking forward to it because we'll do it at Palms Up with the lights and everything. I think it'll be even more spectacular. But
I bet they were proud.
thrilled. They were.
They were just thrilled the whole night.
I told them, you have to come. You're the center of attraction, so dress like an artist. And it was so fascinating to see what that meant.
With their concept
interpretation
of
of what that meant. They were
We
cute
had
as they could
one
be.
boy in a white T-shirt and rolled up jeans
And loafers and white socks.
and white socks, and then some of the girls were like in their fanciest dresses.
One even had gloves on, and they were
my.
adorable.
Oh, gosh.
Enhanced life in a small community. Ann Hieronymus and Kathy Marciello. How pretty close to that?
Macchiariello.
Marciello. Well, you got that train.
I told you to use Hieronymus.
Visiting with us this morning here on Viewpoint about enhancing the quality of life in a small community.
Amen.
I came across, and these small communities are from border to border and coast to coast, throughout this great land. I came across a saying about little villages, and I want to read this verbatim. It said, I wish I could show you the little village where I was born. It's so lovely there. I used to think it was too small to spend a lot of my life in, but now I'm not so sure. Thank you, ladies, very much.